welcome. My name is Dana Connors, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to The Bottom Line, a monthly program brought to you by the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, a program that right now we're beginning our new season. We're looking at, once again, the programs, the policies, and the people behind them, all at work to improve the lives and the livelihood of Maine people. Today, our program is going to focus on Maine's most precious resource, our youth, our young people. We're going to be looking at two initiatives that are at work in our state to help our young people to prepare for the jobs of today, but also to provide them a pathway to our economic future as well. Those two programs are Junior Achievement and the Bridge Year program. And we're going to begin today with the Junior Achievement program, and it's my pleasure to welcome Steve Mortimer, who's president of Junior Achievement here in Maine. Steve, it's a pleasure having you on board.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great. You've got a very impressive initiative underway in the state, probably familiar to many, but I suspect there's a lot of Mainers that would love to know more about your program, and I'm hopeful that in the next 15 minutes or so that we can provide them that opportunity. Junior Achievement on a national basis, to kind of set this up, when I was reading some of the background, I was surprised to read that they're almost a century-year old, 95 years old. Here in Maine, we're half that. We're 50 years old. In fact, next year we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. And as a worldwide organization, you are the leading educational institution that focuses on K-12 students, helping them with their entrepreneurial abilities, with their work readiness, with their financial ability to deal with issues. Let's begin by looking at Maine and sharing with our audience what is it that we do in Maine to help our students develop that entrepreneurial skill, that work readiness, or that financial integrity that they need to compete in today's economy. What are we doing?
Maine's doing a lot of things. Junior Achievement is one of many. Jobs for Maine Graduates, Educate Maine, a number of other organizations are doing a lot to help, and we each come at it from slightly different angle. We work with K through 12 students, and we specifically work on what you were just saying, financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and work readiness. And so we go into the classrooms and we use volunteers, typically from the business community, people who have real deep knowledge and expertise in a given area, and they come in and talk with the kids. And what we really try to do is connect students with work, because one of the statistics is that more kids drop out of school because they don't see the relevance of what they're learning than any other reason. And so we're trying to connect them with what their work is going to be, their career, get them thinking about that.
So indeed it is a partnership between your program, so to speak, but also the educational community, the business community, a lot of mentoring. It sounds to me like you depend heavily upon the volunteer aspects of business and or education.
Absolutely.
Is that a fact? I mean, you do a lot of, rely a lot upon people stepping forward and helping.
What we do in the schools is totally free to the students, the teachers, the schools themselves. Everything is donated in essence. And a majority of that, whether it's financial support or volunteer, comes from typically the local community.
How many students do you actually have in the program Junior Achievement today, and how many schools participate in that?
Well, the school year that just ended, we reached over 11,000 students.
Really?
Which sounds like a lot, and it is, but on a percentage basis, we need to be doing a lot more. So we know that students who go through a JA program are more likely to graduate from high school, more likely to be employed, and so on. So our mission is to reach as many as we can.
let's talk, 13, would you say 11,000, 13,000 students?
11,000 this past.
Students, over 130
50,000
schools.
over the last few years.
Oh, that's impressive. What are some of the programs actually, when I was reading about, and actually at your banquet, was impressed with the students that stepped forward with their little projects. But in the course of that evening, I learned that you focus on the elementary, the middle, the high school, the teachers. There's a job shadowing, there's a Titus Challenge.
Yep.
Titus Challenge. What are some of those programs and how do they work to get the student and the business community? Are they given projects? Do you actually, how is it conducted?
There are a number of different ways. The traditional way that JA has worked is that a teacher will contact us, for example, and say, I teach a third grade class and I'd like for you to come in. We're going to be studying our role in our community or our role in the country, that kind of thing. And so they'll ask us to send a volunteer in, teach a program, and we will then link one of the people who has volunteered for us in that area who's interested in working at that grade level, and we'll link them up with the teacher, and at that point the two of them figure out when's most convenient. And the volunteer will come in maybe 5 or 6 times over the coming weeks, come in and teach different chapters, if you will, of the program. And that's one approach. The businesses particularly like a different approach, which is called JA in a day. And instead of me coming into your classroom 5 or 6 weeks for maybe 45 minutes at a pop, we'll have 5 or 6 volunteers come into a school on one day, and we'll have a volunteer in each of 5 or 6 classrooms, and maybe 200 middle school students, and 30 of them will be in this classroom, and so on and so on. And then they rotate at the end of a 45-minute or so program period. And by the end of probably 4 hours, they've gotten the entire program in one day.
Oh, that's interesting.
And Job Shadow is another that you mentioned, and that's huge. IDEX, Unum, LL Bean, pretty much any company that you can think of hosts Job Shadows. What's really great about that is that the students get to come in and actually see people at work and see what they're doing. So they were at IDEX this spring, and they were in labs with goggles on, looking through microscopes, that kind of thing. And they find out that maybe every job at the Red Sox isn't playing on the field, but there's actually human resources and technology.
Yeah.
And so on.
Fascinating. So it's really, in so many ways, introducing or helping to prepare the student for the real world by providing that association, by seeing how it functions. Is that a correct characterization?
Yep. And part of what it does too is it connects the businesses with the schools and with the students. So the students actually are developing a network of business people over the years as they go through different programs.
What's the Titans Challenge?
Titan Challenge is it's a business simulation. It was developed initially by JA USA in Colorado Springs, and high school students come together in 3-person teams, and one is the CEO, and one's the CFO, and one's the head of marketing and operations, and they come in, and for a day they run a business, and they're competing against other teams. There are hundreds of teams all over the state. They are hosted by 6 or 7 different colleges. So Presque Isle, UMaine Presque Isle will have a bunch of teams there, and USM will have, and so on. And the kids are competing throughout the day. So while your company is maybe raising price, another company is investing more in R&D, and they come out with a new product that kind of trumps your. So it's very much like the real world. You don't know what your competitors are doing, and you have to respond and make decisions.
Yeah, that too is very impressive. In fact, it reminded me the evening of the awards banquet that you hosted, there was a young man there that had an outstanding example where he had created, I refer to it as a bracelet, but it had gone international in terms of impact, and he couldn't sell them fast enough. And that was an example of how it was born out of...
In 7th grade, he goes to Falmouth
He was a
schools.
7th grader?
When he was a 7th grader, one of our volunteers came in and did a program that was focused on entrepreneurship and jobs creation. And he got so excited about it that he decided to start his own business. And his sister is kind of the designer of these bracelets, and he's the business, the CEO kind of thing. And you're right, they have a terrific website. They sell bracelets all over the country and the world. And what we particularly like is A, it's a great story, and B, he gives us a portion of his profits.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me ask that creates a question, that last comment that you made. When you look at your program, in spite of the tremendous success that you've had, and clearly there's no question of that, what would you say your biggest challenge is in terms of keeping the momentum? There's a lot of entities out there doing good work. You mentioned JMG. We're going to speak of another one in a moment that's more focused on high school. But nevertheless, what is your biggest challenge in keeping this alive and the success that you're enjoying today as a CEO?
I would say that our biggest challenge is actually two. It's dollars and volunteers.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, we don't charge for what we do. So every time we go into a classroom, we go in with a pretty sizable kit, and it's things that we pass out to the students. Every time we go into a classroom, every 45-minute period, a lot of that is hands-on activities. It's very experiential learning. So we'll talk about a particular concept, and then we do something. And that something is typically, there are pieces to it, the physical. And so just paying for those kits, paying for me to travel around the state and talk to people about JA and fundraise and so on, there's a cost associated with all that. So, and that all comes, 100% comes from donations. So we don't receive funding from the government or United Way or whatever. That's one challenge. The other is just volunteers. We actually don't do any marketing because the demand is so great for us that we're racing just to keep up with what we've got. Because literally every time we go into a new school and do one 3rd grade class or 7th grade class, whatever it is, we then start getting calls from other teachers because they've seen the results and they want us to come in as well.
That's a good problem to have, as we like to say.
It's a great problem.
Steve, you're not going to believe this, but our time is up and you've done a magnificent job. And as we go to break, I want to remind our audience of a special event they surely won't want to miss. Now that Labor Day is past, November 4th, our election day isn't so far away. And as we've already been witness to, the race for the Blaine House is surely heating up. In that respect, you do not want to miss the Maine State Chamber's 2014 Annual Dinner and Gubernatorial Forum. It's scheduled for the evening of Wednesday, October 15th at the Augusta Civic Center. Our annual showcase event will feature our 5th televised gubernatorial debate. And as in the past, we are teaming up again with WCSH Channel 6 in Portland and WLBZ Channel 2 in Bangor. Together, we'll bring to you the first scheduled statewide television debate and giving to you the very best opportunity to hear directly from the candidates for Maine's next governor as they discuss and debate the issues that are important to you. Also, with approximately 400 business leaders from across the state in attendance, the annual dinner also provides us the occasion to recognize accomplishments of those people making a difference in our state, as well as to honor the investments of Maine companies working to create opportunities for Maine people. So please join us. Mark your calendars for the evening of Wednesday, October 15th, and plan to join us at the Augusta Civic Center. And for more information, you can either call us at the State Chamber or check our homepage, www.mainechamber.org. Plan to see you then.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
You're watching Time Warner Cable Community.
Welcome back. Welcome to The Bottom Line. My name is Dana Connors. I'm pleased to be your host, and we're going to continue to be looking at those types of programs that can help prepare our youth for today's jobs as well as tomorrow's promise. With me now is Fred Woodman. Fred is the director of the United Technology Centers in Bangor and is also vice chair of the Bridge Year program existing in that area as well. Fred, it's a pleasure having you on the show, and I'm anxious to have you share with our audience the exciting things that are going on with the Bridge Year program. Let me only say at the outset that I was a commissioner of transportation for 11 years, and when I hear the term Bridge Year, I think in terms of steel or concrete. And while there's a symbolism, it's not necessarily, there is a symbolism in what the bridge term really means, but it has nothing to do with steel or concrete. It's a program that was developed in just, 2 years ago, 2012. You had your pilot program, 15 students, one cohort, 15 students, a partnership, collaboration between the United Technology Center,
Correct.
Herman, Community College, University, and today it's exploded. But let's first talk about the Bridge Year. What is the Bridge Year? We know it's not concrete and steel, but what is it?
The Bridge Year is actually a program that's designed to help students go from high school to college. It's aimed at the student that's probably the 20th percentile in their class to the 40th to 50th percentile in their class. It's a middle-of-the-road type of child. Probably the child that's going to go to college for a year, drop out, and not have a skill and not have a diploma. And we're out to stop that. And that's the basic premise of the program. It was brought together because the biggest problem for these children is the schools don't talk. So in the Bridge Year, we talk. Everybody's working together, and everybody's working together to make it a successful program for all of these kids.
It's fantastic. 2012, one cohort, 15 students. I read just recently where that's already expanded into, you've got Ellsworth, Waterville, Holton. You received $650,000 for the legislature. Is that part of that? Is that to expand that? And what is happening?
That's for both things.
For both.
Okay, we also have Madomic, who is in there.
Okay.
And we've gone from one cohort, in which we basically did it as a group together, to now 10 cohorts. And those cohorts are 15 to 20 students from each of those high schools. And Bangor, for example, has 2 cohorts in my school. Herman has 2 cohorts. Brewer and Hamden each have 1. Those will keep growing. And the idea is, with these cohorts, you have to bring them in the summer. You have to take them to businesses. You have to move them around. You put them on a college campus, which we do, so if they get used to being on a college campus. We build the cohort, bringing those kids together, able to work together all the time, because in school, in the high school, they are together all the time, and they are there until they go over to the Career and Technical Education Center. And once they get over there, they can go into one of 18 different programs, and they do.
That was a question I had. So that there isn't, of those kids in that cohort, that 15 to 18, they're not all taking the same course. They're not all pursuing law enforcement or healthcare. So they can be a mix. Are you limited in what's being offered? The limitation would only be what the school has to offer, I'm assuming.
Correct to a point, except one of the things that we do is when we take them around for the cohorts, remember there's 2 summer cohorts. They go one summer for 3 days and the next summer for 3 days. We take them to different businesses.
Okay.
We went to the waterfront. We went to Darigo Pines. We went to the state police. We went to Chinbro, WLBZ TV, the manufacturing center at the university, and the composite center. So they began to see the different jobs that come out of that. And and they then choose what avenue they want to go into.
That's
and
amazing.
it seems to be very, very successful.
Well, that's very encouraging, really, when you think about it. So your challenge is not so much trying to get more money, it's trying to control and keep this explosive good thing that's created, keep it under control and make sure you're meeting all the needs that exist.
Correct. And all the requirements that we have to be under because we're educational institutions.
Of course.
The biggest challenge is making sure that the university has got their role filled, and that we also have the University of Maine Augusta Bangor now join us, and the University of Maine Augusta has joined us, and that's been a terrific help to us. picking up these other cohorts, we're going to go from 10 this year to 27 or 28, and if we don't turn down some people, it might get even bigger than that. It costs a lot of money in terms of running the summer programs. It costs money in terms of vetting those teachers, because all of the teachers in the high school, now remember, our students get their college at their high school their junior and senior year. So those teachers have to become adjunct faculty. And it costs us money to run that part of it. And when we do that, once we put it all together, everybody's talking.
So they get their 29 and a half hours of credit. 1 year later, that encourages them in that next year to go to the college. And in a year, they'll get the associate's degree.
If they go to the community college, in a year they'll get their associate's degree. If they go to the 4-year college, hopefully in 3 years. But either way, for the parents, it's a win for the parents, because they're probably going to pay, because it is $35 a credit hour.
But that compares to what? If we
About
were,
$300
Yeah,
a credit
I was gonna
hour
say,
for 1 hour.
Real
So
deal.
it's 35, so about 105. At the university, it's $45 a credit hour. It depends on which school they're associated with, but the credits are the same. They can go anywhere. We did know when this group graduated, they all went in as sophomores in the different colleges that they went to. And the parents usually pay anywhere between, in 2 years, $1,500 to $1,700 for their first year of college.
So the attitude, speaking of the student here, the attitude must be one of a significant change from almost hopelessness and despair to one of enthusiasm and excitement, because they can see a career path, they can see opportunities that they probably, no disrespect intended, saw hopelessness almost a year before that or a period of time.
I think for them it's the same old, and now we've come along and we said, look, you do it this way, you put the time in, you do what you need to do, and you're going to be in college, and you're going to get in fairly easily, and you're going to have a year done. And those students walk around right now, all of those students, they have a ID card from the University of Maine, they have an ID card from the University of Maine, Augusta.
That's nice.
And they're juniors in high school.
Oh, that's
and
great.
they know they're in college. It's very clear to them they're in college.
Well, and it gives proof to the fact that we often hear this said, and you offer proof to it, is that if you're taking a college course in high school to any degree, you're going to stay in high school. It means you're probably going to enter into college, and you're probably going to complete college. So all ships are going to rise with that type of opportunity. And so you're not only raising aspirations, you're increasing the employability of that person, as well as encouraging post-secondary degree attainment. I mean, that's a win-win, is it not?
Absolutely. And what the career and technical ed schools do is we give them a skill.
Yeah.
And we allow them to follow that skill. And we also work with businesses, and we mentorship those students
Yeah.
out. So we might put them with Shinbro. I remember one of our
Yeah.
students was in electrical. We put him with Shinbro for a week. We decided, let him try it, see how it works. So he was there for a week. And when he came back, he said, now I know what I want to be. And that's important. If you know what you want to be, you know where you're going to go.
Oh, that's great. Well said. You know, we both, all three of us here today, as well as we could put Jobs for Maine's graduates if we had more time beside us, because all three of you are working to do what I describe as God's work, trying to help our young people to achieve that level of success we all want them to achieve. And we look around the state today and we see time and again jobs that are begging for somebody to fill them, but they lack the skill needed to fill that job. You come along with this program, Junior Achievement, Jobs for Maine's graduates, and in the three instances, that magic is there to help that young person. I'm hopeful that any way that the state chamber can raise the voice or make it better understood as to what this program can mean for a parent's child in high school, we want to be sure that we offer you that hand of cooperation or collaboration, whatever, because that's a very promising program, and we expect great things from it.
We appreciate that, and we appreciate your support in the past. We do need the chamber.
Yeah.
We need those businesses to step forward and say, I'll let one mentor, I'll let two mentor.
Yeah.
And they're doing it. In our area, they've been terrific. We can't ask for more. But now that we're branching out, we need the chambers in the other areas to step forward like the Bangor Chamber has done.
Yeah.
Which would be a big help to
Well,
us.
in that regard, I almost hesitate to ask because of what you said before. You've got a program that people have seen as success, is kind of explosive in nature, and even though $650,000 is a lot of money, now it's up to you to kind of control that growth so it does all the good things that you've started out to do. If people want to know more about the program or to engage in some way or offer a mentorship from a business point of view, how would they do that?
The easiest thing to do is to contact me at United Technology Center in Bangor, Maine,
Yeah.
942-5296. Ask for me, and we will connect them with the people that they can help.
Fantastic. You know, we live in this age where we recognize the state as being a very entrepreneurial state. We know that innovation is the key to our success and skill development. And I think you've got it all pretty well contained in this formula that you've shared with our audience today. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I want to be sure that we get as much information out there for the public as we possibly can.
Well, just remember, this is a win-win program for everybody. I talked about the parents. The career and technical ed schools are beginning to explode because of it. And students are finding, oh, I can get a career over there, and I can actually do something, and I still go on to college because we want you to. We know that has to be done. And the third part is the colleges are doing better.
Yeah.
And the reason that the colleges are doing better is where is that child most likely to go? The same place they got their first credits. So if they're already at the University of Maine, they're probably going to stay at the University of Maine.
That's true.
And they're probably going to stay in the state of Maine, which is another goal of the program.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have students dropping out like they are now, because they're in there for a reason. And once you've got a reason, you'll be terrific.
Yeah.
And the kids that we've had so far have been absolutely fabulous.
That's great. You know, it reminds me too of, we have an intern, it's called Intern Help Me. It's a platform that helps the higher ed, and we're trying to get that into the high school level, but the higher ed at the moment with business and with the student. And we found a similar thing, that students who experience an internship, almost 50% of those, using a similar example to what you just did, will end up staying with that company. So the more that we can acquaint those students with the work that you do, the work that Steve does, the more that we can provide them internships, the more likely they are going to find a job right here in Maine, because they're going to be prepared for it, and that internship will allow them the opportunity to stay here. Boy, I've got to tell you, today has been a special day because I've had two very special guests, and I want to thank you both for having brought the programs to the people of Maine. I want to thank our guests for what they do and for the promise that they bring to Maine's future. You see, today perhaps can be said to be informational, but I also find it to be very encouraging, because the purpose of both of those programs clearly is aimed at one thing. That is the priority that all of us hold near and dear in the state of Maine. That's our young people. Regardless of where you live, regardless of the position that you hold or the politics that you choose to follow, we all want the very best for our young people. We want each to be successful. We want each individual to reach their highest potential. Today we've heard of two programs that deal with aspirations as well as attitude, that deals with skill as well as training. And they both prepare a pathway for success today and a promise for tomorrow. Our youth success is our future economic promise. Their success is our inspiration. With that, I thank you for once again joining me on The Bottom Line, and I look forward to seeing you right back here next month, when we're going to be talking about the bond issues that the voters will be asked to vote on November the 4th. Until then, I wish you the very best in the month of September. Good day.